Hi friends, thank you for dialing in to talk about life, and today we have a very dear friend, Tay Ling, calling in from Hong Kong. And the streets of Taiwan and the streets of around there, there's a lot of tension, but we shan't go into the politics of Hong Kong and Taiwan and China at that point. There's so much that we are living as an ordinary person, paycheck to paycheck. You have family problems, challenges, relationship, health issues, money issues, employment, economics. These are things that is so pertinent for us every day going out to the street, and my heart goes out to the people, who are now in a very critical situation whereby they do not know that their jobs are being kept. And I have my HSBC banker, and she's quite worried that, whether she will keep her job, and she's hoping that she will keep her job until next year. And she's so young. These kind of things do not hit people, and you thought that it will not come to you. But Singapore is facing the biggest crisis, and the unemployment rate has gone up. And yesterday, the news has released that we actually have an increase in unemployment, more retrenchment to come. It's a higher unemployment than 2009 financial crisis. So with that, on a very serious note and in a very helpful note, we hope that with Tay Ling's sharing, with his background in entrepreneurship, his entry and then his successful exit in entrepreneurship, we want to hear from him what kind of lessons he has learned and what kind of tips he could give out to people right now, and a little bit of background to Tay Ling and to the general viewers. Singapore actually has set up this $150 million fund for young entrepreneurs. Young entrepreneurs mean people who have not been an entrepreneur in their life. They can actually apply for 50,000 as the first seed, and then the first 3 months of salary of 1,500, and that's to help retrench people who can't find jobs, tie over a very serious, unforeseeable economic crisis, which is actually the effect of this pandemic. So with the wealth of experience that Tay Ling has, it is my honor to invite you again and to sit in to talk about life, about entrepreneurship. Tay Ling, could you share with us your background on entrepreneurship? How did it start?
Okay, sure. I think, wow, how did it start? It started a very, very long time ago. I think the key thing is that I've succeeded as much as I failed. And to be very honest, I think entrepreneurship isn't really suitable for every single person. There are people that's suitable for it, and there are people that's not suitable for it. And I think it's important for you to be able to know for yourself, which down deep inside are you really suitable for it. So maybe just to share, I was an entrepreneur when I was very young. I started being an entrepreneur when I was 27. And that was a case where I already had 2 failed businesses before that. So I only I had 2 failed.
At which age did you start being an entrepreneur?
So if you go into the longer details of it, I first tried to be a businessman when I was 24.
Wow.
And actually, I think the idea of it was very good. So at that point of time, the property market in Singapore was just about to boom, right? And I realized that when the property market was booming, when you're searching for property, it's very frustrating because you can only buy a newspaper and then you can look through the listings, and then after you can see, oh, there's this particular listing that's available. I can call the agent up and then arrange for viewing, right? Which I felt was highly inefficient.
Yeah.
So at that point of time, I came up with a thought and an idea that what if we are able to ship all of this online, and online people actually have the opportunity to look at photos of the property, right? The property price, it allows you to search and filter according to what you like. It allows you to bookmark, and then it allows you to go on a virtual tour of sort. Now, does that remind you of Property Guru now? right? So what I actually did then was I thought about it, and I felt that the missing link was that because this was just an idea, and I've never been a property agent, and and at that age I've never bought property before. So to me, it's okay. How do I know and test whether it can work? Because it's just an idea. Coming up with ideas is cheap and easy, right? And then I spoke to a few friends. I managed to get people who's able to develop technology, right? So I told them, I said that if you're able to develop technology, I'm happy to have you as a founder. But at the end of everything, what was really missing was really just the experience of a property agent, which I couldn't find. So I thought, okay, should I go and be a property agent for 2 years before, while I'm doing a property agent for 2 years, then I can develop this application. And I couldn't bring myself to be an agent because I didn't like it. So with that, that was how my first business failed. It failed before it even started, right? Nothing happened. My second business was actually a business that was very interesting. It's a dental appointment making platform, right?
Wow.
So that happened when I was 26. Right?
You are so you are so a man ahead of the time.
I think what and I'm going to do this a little bit later. So at 26, when I tried to do it, I think what first struck me was that there's a lot of people that, as part of their employment, actually have dental benefits, right? And as part of the dental benefits, actually nobody really bothered to go and see the dentist, right? And I wondered why. I was very curious. I wondered why. And I was very lucky. I had a friend whose family member was a dentist. So I said, can I speak to the dentist? So I spoke to the dentist, and then I realized the reason was a very simple reason. The reason was that the dentist actually had all the records of their patients on paper. That's problem number one. Because it's on paper, they don't really go through the records. Every 6 months, oh, they're supposed to go and call the patient and say, oh, it's time for a dental appointment again. Would you like to come, and how should we do that? So that's CRM, right? So you don't do that. And in the end, because nobody's reminded and nobody does it, nobody goes for dental appointment. So I thought if all of this can be put on an electronic platform, right? And the whole entire thing becomes automated. It becomes a case where everyone who goes to, so my target audience were dentists. The dentists sign up for this, it becomes a CRM package that they subscribe to and purchase and use. And then automatically the patients will keep coming back, because after a few times the patients, you don't have to do anything, it's an automated system that sends SMS, send WhatsApp messages and such. Again, we started, I started that, it lasted about 3 months, right? In that 3 months, the first beta version of it was out, and then an investor came. And the investor came and said, "Oh, I think that was a brilliant idea. Let me buy." Condition is that you need to work for it for 3 years. I was like, "Okay, that sounds interesting. How much are you willing to buy?" And the amount that was given to me was 15,000 Sing dollars.
50,000 Sing dollars. And that was when you were 26 years old?
That was when I was 26.
So that was the first successful buyout.
It was unsuccessful. Right? It was unsuccessful because at 15K, I felt that, oh, come on, my current salary then, I was really earning this. Not even 1 year's of salary. Just a couple of
True.
It's really too little for me to sell this. So I refused to sell. So I said, no, I didn't sell it. And when I was working on it, along the way, we hit glitches and hiccups and such. And then the partners that were working on it gave up. So the second business failed again. So I think it's lucky between the first and second business that happened was 0 cents, 0 capital invested. It was just man hours that was spent. So when all of that happened, then that got me thinking, what should I do for my third business? So it took me about a year before I decided that actually I like marketing a lot. Why don't I set up an advertising agency? And that was how it started, right? My third company, I hit it lucky. I got it lucky. It was my most successful business. So I had a business plan of how I wanted to grow the business. And the plan was actually very simple. It first started from an idea. From the idea, then it developed into a plan, and then I was moving towards achieving it. The key thing that I realize now, after I've gone through that, then, is that the key issue is not starting a business is really easy, right? In my first year of me starting my third business, which is called trade advertising, right? When I started that, I actually went for a talk by Prudential. And at that point of time, when I went for a talk by Prudential, Prudential was talking about wealth management and how do you actually talk about ensuring that your business runs well and so on and so forth. And while they were doing that, they shared stats that was given by Accra, right? And yes, and Accra shared that out of every 4 businesses that starts, only one succeeds. So there's every time you start a business, there's only a 25% chance that the company will last past the first year. And then I was looking at myself and I was like, okay, I started 3, and 1 happened to make it, the other 2 failed. Okay, yeah, the stats seems pretty aligned. And then they said,
so positive.
yes, and 1 out of 5 will survive past year 3.
Past year 3.
1 out of 10 will survive past year 5.
Year 5. For
Yes.
1 out of 10.
1 out of 10. And 1 out of 100 will survive year 10.
Year 10.
So I think I'm pretty lucky. I survived 14 years and it's still running.
14 years!
So I ran it for 14 years, even though I sold my shares. Right? But I think that was where I got my formula right eventually. Right? So that was what I felt. And before starting, there were a lot of people that actually came and asked me, actually, why do you want to start your business? And how do you actually want to go about doing it? And aren't you worried about this, this, and this? And to be very honest, I spoke to a person prior to me starting my third business, where I decided to quit my full-time job and run the business. My question to him then that I asked is a friend. He started a one-man show doing videography. So I asked him, is it difficult to survive? And his answer to me was a very simple answer. His answer to me was, surviving is never a problem.
Yeah.
You can definitely survive. The question is, how can you do well? And he has been doing it for about 3 years. So with that, without even thinking, I just decided, okay, it's time for me to quit my full-time job and let's go all out, all in, right, and do it. And I remember at that point of time when I started the business, there was no capital. I worked from home, right? I had nothing but a laptop and I was using pirated software, right? And my very first job that came was a $150 job. I treated that job like it's worth $1 million. And from that point on, then that was how I actually started and grow. And then from 1 project, it became 10 projects. From 10 projects, it became, the value of the projects became bigger. Then I started to be able to hire staff. And actually, what was interesting, like what you mentioned earlier, in 2008, when there was economic crisis, actually that was when I had my biggest expansion. Then, right? Because it's a small company, and you realize right now why a lot of companies are suffering, right? If you look at the global pandemic situation currently, a lot of companies are suffering because they're too big, cumbersome. So when they are big, this size, as a yacht you want to navigate, it's a very slow movement, right? In that sense. But if you're small and nimble, small team, 5 people, right, at this, and you want to navigate, sure, let's move. And you can really pivot, right? We talk about pivot. It's a catchphrase now, right? You can really pivot really fast. And at that point of time, because I was that small and nimble, and what I realized in that first situation in 2008 is that when the market is not doing well, what people do in terms of marketing spend is that they first cut the big agencies. Right? They need to cut budget. Cutting budget, they still need to do their work. So when they cut budget, big companies are not willing to reduce their profit margin because they have very high overheads. But small companies like me, I can even charge higher by scaling up. That means that I'm gaining a lot of market share. So in 2008, actually, I had 4 staff then. In 2008, I became 8 people. In 2009, I became 16 people. Every year, I doubled my headcount. And my revenue doubled, my GP more than doubled. So, right, so all of that actually helped in all of it. And I think what is key really that now, currently where I am, I realized my biggest failure then was that at the point that I start, I never thought about how I will end. So I never had an exit strategy. So for anyone who actually wants to start entrepreneurship, I think my biggest advice is always think about your exit.
Yeah.
Right? It's extremely easy to have an idea, right? From the idea then to develop into an action plan, then that's where it becomes a little bit difficult already.
Yeah.
But if you have an idea and develop an action plan and it's able to earn some money, right? Then the next thing is what's going to happen next. I decided to leave in the end because I realized I didn't have an exit strategy. I never thought what will happen. I always thought that the company is going to be my life. And it came to a point where even though the company was successful, I asked myself, am I going to be doing this tomorrow again? Because I'm at the limit of what I can grow, right? And unless I talk to investors, which I don't have any, because I started too young, right? I didn't have contacts and resources and network where I can reach out to investors, right? All your series A to D funding, I've never gone through it before because I didn't know how. I didn't know the people to get there as well.
You did it a classic way, classical.
Yes, I did it the very hardcore grandmother method, right? It's through blood and sweat, right? I did it in that particular manner. And you grow, and through careful financial management and cash management, how do you actually go about doing it? So that was actually what I did, that I felt was a very key learning point that I had in my life. Yeah.
I have in fact, your very broad opening gave me so many things to ask you.
Sure, go ahead.
Run through my mind. Going through the grit and the grind. Okay, picking yourself up. Choosing your first founding team and managing your first founding team. People who are willing to go through the grit and the grind. How do you do that? What are the tips? Number 3, you are saying that entrepreneurship is not for everyone. So what are the characters or the qualities is suitable for entrepreneurship? You know, there must be certain things that bling that, hey, this guy is made for it, or this guy, it's going to be really, really hard. Okay, 3 things. And then, of course, the 4th thing you just mentioned, cash management, turnover. And that is the nitty-gritty of the business management part of it. You know, the first few is really the entrepreneurship part. And then, of course, after that, we got so many more questions like how do you manage your clients as a small company vis-a-vis the big giants who have big, broad brand names, and how do you muscle them out? I think that's very dramatic. And then also, like you say, how do you actually grow? Do you want to pump in, you know, more money into the company? Do you want to draw out money, or do you want to expand your money? So these are certain things that as a boss, as an owner, you have to struggle with decision. Where is the balance point of the risk management? A lot of things, even in a very short story, you know, so much things come to my mind, and it must have been drama, and also real entrepreneurs, right? Like you say, they have to walk through that fire. It's not something that a teacher can, I mean, you know, entrepreneurship, a teacher can teach in a class with a textbook. You know, a textbook. Okay, on entrepreneurship, number 1, bootstrapping. Number 2, fundraising. Number 3, 7 slides to success. You know, but it is really going through the fire to really see like, okay, these are the things that is real on the ground. You know, so much things I want to ask from you. So one of the things, I want to ask from you is that you talked about entrepreneurship is not for everyone. What do you think the like innate characteristics that someone have will actually kind of like give them the edge that, okay, they will succeed if they have these qualities? And I'm not saying that without these you won't succeed. I'm just saying that with a particular characteristics, you may have the edge better. What do you think these are?
Right. I think let me start first in terms of what I think entrepreneur should actually have, right? I think the key is that a lot of entrepreneurs start because they started with a wrong starting point.
Okay.
So what do I mean by a wrong starting point? They start because I want financial freedom, I want time freedom.
Mm.
These are always the two key reasons why a lot of people start a business. And that becomes a motivating factor. Then, okay, with that, let me try to find ideas and then let me see how I can get funding and bootstrapping and so on and so forth, the rest of it. Right? To be very honest, an entrepreneur, and you can go and ask any entrepreneur, time freedom? Not really.
No.
Right? Not really. A lot of entrepreneurs I know, they are at the beck and call on their phone all the time. Employee call, a client call, technical problems.
24/7.
24/7, yes.
Yep.
Right? Time freedom? Not really. Financial freedom? Oh, come on. Right? When a company has no money to staff, it comes up with to give to them. Is that an eventual end state? You might be able to get, perhaps. Actually, in one of the talks that I had recently with ad agency boss. So the ad agency boss was asking me, right, in terms of my retirement plans, and he was saying that, don't you think it's easier for you to retire with a bigger sum of money when you are an entrepreneur? I said, no. I started thinking that I will retire easier, faster, with more money as an entrepreneur. It was only when I saw my uncle. Then I realized, no, you can actually retire faster, better, stronger if you're employed. But as an employee, you need to be able to climb really fast. So if you're talking about a same person who is equally strong, right? A very typical, powerful type A person. If you're asking me, should the person be an employee or employer? I'll tell you the person should be an employee. Right? Unless you're like a Mark Zuckerberg, right? Or other kind of famous founders of sort, where they are able to create everything from scratch and then create something and create listed. Majority of us are not that kind of person. We're not that great, right? Majority of us are probably your typical businessman, perhaps. For you to be able to go to a listed company, extremely hard, right? So that, compared to you being an employee, no, I'm sorry, I think an employee has less stress, significantly less stress. And that's, I think, that is the starting point of the kind of characteristics that I think an entrepreneur should really have. Right? When we talk about, earlier you mentioned how and what kind of person are suitable for entrepreneur, right? From my point of view, it's really a case where an entrepreneur needs to have this enormous drive within the person.
Enormous drive.
Yes. I think, speaking about myself, I'm like all humans. I go through ups and downs. There are times in which I get extremely happy. There are times in which I get demotivated. But what I realized, the key difference between myself and my peers is that my period of time that I'm demotivated is extremely short. I go through a very hard and difficult day today, and after today where I'm extremely sick of what I'm going through, a lot of people, that period could last a week or more. I realized that for myself, it typically lasts about 24 hours or less. So it's really short. So it happens, then I sleep on it. The next morning, I say, okay, come on, let's go get it again, right? What can we do today to try to make things happen? That kind of energy is not easy. Right? And as an entrepreneur, really, I think you go through a lot of problems that's unexpected. If you like things to be very systematic, right, to be extremely predictable, then again, entrepreneurship isn't really suitable for you. Because there are times when I face, right, where I need internet, and Singtel just calls me and say, I'm sorry, we made an appointment, but my guy is not coming today. And sorry, you just can't upload your spouse on the internet. These are silly things that happens that you have to face. And how do you actually go about solving it? Right? You need to have ink cartridges to print out something because you have an important tender document to submit. There's no ink cartridges, right? And you forgot to pick it up. And are you going to copy it to a home drive and change your schedule and bring it out to a printer shop to print? Or are you going to be able to go next door and say, hey, hello neighbor, can I borrow your printer? Right. These are the kind of things that I think as a very small startup, you need to be prepared for. If you're not prepared for all these and you can't bring yourself to do it, I would strongly suggest you never try, right? And also, if you talk about mindset, a lot of people talk about, I need to prevent failure, right? As an entrepreneur, it's important to know how to prevent failure, right? Because it's my business, it's extremely important. Having gone through that journey, I actually think totally otherwise, right? I think it's important to fail fast, right? What's important is whatever that you start, in the shortest amount of time, you need to fail, because after you fail, you are then able to learn, and then you can reinvent again. Because if you don't fail, you'll never learn, right? And then you'll be under this illusion that, oh, everything is sunny and nice, right? And then when it finally fails, you're going to be really hard. So as an entrepreneur, I think one of the key lessons I've learned is always about failing fast. So back to your question on choosing founding team. There's different strategies of how you go about doing it, right? Some people decides that my founding team should have different skill sets that I have, or have complementary skills that I have. There are some people that decides that my founding team, the skills doesn't matter. It really is just about the attitude and the character matching that I have. I think whatever it is, the key thing again for any budding entrepreneur is really to consider what actually is your philosophy of life? What is your philosophy of the company? If you're not able to answer that question, then you're probably not ready again for what is your founding member type that you should have. So for myself, what I chose then that I was very clear about is that I don't like to deal with money, and I don't like money to destroy relationships. But I know in business, actually money is one of the key problems that will always happen. So when I started, my founding team how I chose my founding team was really a case of, I look for people that I know on a financial front, I can trust 200%. So that was actually my only criteria. Right? I had no other criteria. No skills, that's fine. Because I believe also, one of the things that Jack Ma said, right? Hire people that's better skilled than you. Right? So to me, it's, if I can trust the founding team, and the founding team is aligned to your particular vision, then from there, subsequently, whatever that you lack can be hired, so long as you're willing to put in that risk. Right, so I think those are some of the things that I would suggest in terms of how you consider your founding team. Cash management and cash flow. I think in business, cash is king, right? What I did then was really a case where we always had 1 year of reserves. So we looked at how, like for example, in 2010, whatever they earn in 2010 doesn't touch. You don't touch it because it's kept as reserves for 2011. Then when it goes to 2012, whatever they earn in 2011 becomes your capital reserves, and then 2010 becomes a bonus payout that you're then able to touch. So every year we always keep about 1 year of reserves, and that 1 year of reserves should at least last us about 6 months in terms of overheads and such. So those are just, I think these theories are theories that's very easy to catch and read when you find out and such. This information is readily available. Last but not least, I think really it's a case of how you can really try to pick yourself up. And I'd like to share this story. I think it's quite interesting. I shared earlier on my 3 businesses, right? The third business, when I started, the idea was a very nice idea. That was when I realized that, there's a lot of companies that have to do annual reports because they are public listed. The annual reports that they have to do, because internet is actually just starting, what if they're able to do an e-annual report? Right? So you realize that at the time I was already constantly thinking about technology. Right, so if I can bring the storytelling into an e-annual report, then the experience can become more immersive. And when it's more immersive, people may be able to pay for it, and I could reduce cost because now I don't have to print. So while the quality can improve, my GP will improve, but at the same time, I'm helping the business to save money. So that was my thinking.
Yeah, so that's why this is one of the questions quite diverse, and I can see that.
Yeah,
But one thing that comes out is that you are able to see through that crowd. You're able to see through that very diverse, random market out there, which is in such a mess, and then you're able to sieve out certain problem that you can actually help to solve. And that's a very niche solution you're providing, looking at the first, second, and the third business that you started, right? Is there any way that someone can train themselves in looking at a differentiated service or a differentiated product from the marketplace?
Sure, I'll share a little bit. I'll share a bit of that later. So back to what I was talking about in terms of my third business, right? On the first day that I registered the business, I discovered that you cannot, there's no such thing as an online annual report because the government ruling is that annual report must be hard copy and must be printed. So immediately my very first business crushed in the same day.
On the same day? After thinking for so long.
Yes. So I was like, oh my God. And that day really, I still remember, I heard about it, I verified it, and I was very down. And then I went to NTU because I graduated from NTU. I went to NTU, one of the halls, and I sat there and I watched people play football the whole entire day. And I started daydreaming and thinking, what can I do this? A lot of people, if we go back to entrepreneurship, a lot of people are, oh, okay, that's fine, then let's give up and move on, right? I think you need to have that never die spirit. You want to keep trying because problems will always happen. It's about how you actually solve the problems. Right. So back to what you said earlier in terms of problems. I think one of the key characteristics that I've seen in a lot of resumes, because I interview a lot of people, all of them will indicate that, oh, I'm a problem solver, right, as one of my characteristics. I think if you look at employment from now and beyond, problem solver is now a given. I'm sorry, everyone needs to be a problem solver. If you're not a problem solver, you're going to be a problem. Is that, can you be a problem spotter?
Problem spotter? Again?
Problem spotter.
Supporter.
Yes, spotter. S-P-O-T-T-E-R.
Oh, spot the problem. Okay.
Yes, problem spotter. So I realized that in my very first job, I was actually very blessed. And I'm going to talk about where I am now in Hong Kong as well as where I was in Singapore. Like Singaporeans and Hong Kongers are actually extremely big complainers about everything.
Complainers.
Right? The queue is too long. It's too slow. The aircon is too hot. Why is the government doing this? Why is the government not doing that? They complain about every single thing. In my very first job, what I thought was very interesting is that there was this scheme that people created, the management created, which is called the staff suggestion scheme.
Staff suggestion scheme.
Yes. So what it did was that they made use of the fact that people like to complain, but they don't want you to stop at complaining. They want you to, after you complain, you state a problem, now you indicate what's the solution. So perhaps because I was an engineer, right, spotting problems was very easy for me. I'm a very big complainer. Oh, the light is not bright enough. Why is the working hours this hour? Why do we have to tap in? Why do we not tap in? Why is the light not on when there's nobody there? When all of this happens, then you start thinking, okay, if I don't want the light to be switched on, if I'm to imagine how can I get the light to switch on, or what if I can implement a motion sensor, right? For motion sensor, what if it can be voice command? So these are things that you start reading, finding,
Yeah.
gain the knowledge, and you start implementing. You look at it, oh, if I'm going to implement a solution that's difficult to implement, then it becomes a case where the management will not implement. So what was interesting as an incentive that they did then? For every suggestion that you make, you earn Singapore $2, very little, right? It's just a token sum, $2. For every suggestion that was implemented. So if you suggest, you get $2. If it's implemented, I can't remember how much you get. You get like maybe another $10.
Yeah.
Thereabout. That actually inculcated in me a culture of spotting and finding a solution that can function. And I'm actually quite proud about it because in my very first job, I was actually the top staff suggestion scheme writer. I suggested about 300 to 400 suggestions a year, right? And 1 year I actually earned, you look at $2 and $10 is very little money, right?
Yeah.
1 year, about $2,000 to $3,000.
Wow. And that was when you were really young, right?
That was when I was 25, right?
25.
So, yeah, so I think that really got you to start thinking, and that started me into a current issue. I mean, like right now, there are problems that appear. Okay, I recognize first the problem, and what's the problem? From problem, I start thinking about how do I solve it. Let me give you a current example that I have. Right, I have a team of 7 at this moment. In that team of 7, I have one person who is a creative designer. She just tendered, and her last day is next Wednesday, right? And because of where the office is situated right now, it's at a very rural area in Hong Kong. So a lot of people don't like to come here because it's very inconvenient. It takes very long time to travel here. So if you put it in Singapore context, it's like at your Tuas, right? Nobody likes to go to Tuas to work. Everybody likes to go to Shenton to work. And when that happened, I think the key then is how do we actually go about solving it? Because you now have a gap, because you need to hire a designer. But the problem is really a case where there's no designers that want to come. How do we actually solve this? Right? So when I look at the situation, then I started thinking, okay, what COVID has taught me is that a lot of us are actually now using video conferencing tools, like Microsoft Teams, Zooms, or whatsoever. And if that's the case, that means that I can actually communicate to the person online easily. And that also means that the person don't even need to be where I am. So I started to expand my area. From new territories, I expanded to within Hong Kong. Can I find somebody within Hong Kong at this price? Then I managed to find somebody. And then I asked myself, if I can find this person at this price within Hong Kong, what if I can find a better quality person out of Hong Kong at the same price? Then I started reading, right? When I started reading, then I realized, oh, government is right now, Singapore government is actually giving funding to encourage you to hire locals, right? So they're encouraging you to hire locals. I think the qualification is below 4,000, you get 25% subsidy. Above 4,000 is, I think, 50% subsidy, something along that. Right? And then I reached out to a Singapore local company and said, what if I'm able to help you create a win-win situation where you start a creative department now. You hire your designer, I become your client.
Wow.
So my money...
Reverse engineer.
My money is then outsourced to him, and now all of a sudden he's able to expand scope because he can earn more. Right? And while expanding, he actually has a reduction in risk because of government subsidy, because of my investment. He can actually start hiring 2 people instead of initially 1 person.
Yeah.
And actually there's no cost to him in that sense. And when I mooted the idea to the company without even thinking twice just said, okay, we are in. Right? And then that's how you solve problems, right? So I think these are like design thinking. These are also thinking out of the box on how do we actually go about solving problems. And I think entrepreneurs do need to have that kind of skill set. I think it's an important criteria for them to have.
Yeah, I think it's really about number one, you are engineer by training, but I think you also have your your own personality, and you are a very resourceful person. You never have anything that says no to you. You do not want a situation to say no to you, anyone or anybody, because you can find your way out.
Yeah.
And that is one of the very important characteristic or criteria for an entrepreneur, right? I mean, people who really want to, not only like find opportunities, but when the opportunities are shut in your face, how do you navigate your way? Isn't it?
Again, yes and no. Yes and no. I think there are entrepreneurs that's meant at different stage.
Different stage.
I belong to the kind of entrepreneur that I'm very good at breaking down walls.
Yeah.
Right? So at a very startup stage where everything is bootstrapped and such, I'm a very strong person there. There are also other people that's very good at the growth stage. Right? Everything is stable. From stable, how do I expand it?
Yeah.
So very few people are both. Right? I belong more to the give me a wall, I'll find my way to get around the wall. Right? Not everyone is that way. So I think the key is that I shared again with some people. Because I think as your founding team, right, it's important to recognize and respect each other. Right? You have your strength, and your strength is what I respect. Similarly, I have my strength, and my strength is what I wish for you to respect. So be very clear about that and respect each other, and of course, I think that's the basis of how you can achieve goals.
So this ends our first part of our entrepreneurship. Thank you so much, Tay Ling. Okay, just a minute.